if you take the child means usually, the standard what we accept all over the world is 0 to 18 years. So 18 years is a long time, isn't it? It's nearly 2 decades. So the child is growing and they are, improving the knowledge, and with internet and social media and all technology around us, it is, knowledge improvement is pretty fast. And they are stepping from one generation to another so fast. And that affects, children, their behavior, their attitude, and the relationship they make and everything. But what happened to the parent? Parent is not growing in that the same speed. So it's always kind of a gap in between the child and the parent. When the child is growing, this gap, becomes more and more. So that becomes an issue. So that's why the parent needs to grow, and parent needs to be skillful, parent needs to be knowledgeable, that the parent needs to think about, growing and having a growing mindset. If you go into physical abuse, if you go slightly one by one, of all, I think in the parents in our society, especially in Sri Lanka, the biggest issue they had is screen contact time. TV, internet, social media, gaming. What is standard? What is suitable? And is it 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, or 10 hours? Should they be in internet at daytime, or is it night? I would like to hear, stress just one point, because there are so many areas under physical abuse. But what strikes me mostly here, culturally also with the Sri Lankan system, and mainly in the eastern part of the world, physical abuse and punishment is, very difficult to distinguish in between. Punishment is happening, whether it's not formal, official or unofficial. It's happening in school, it's happening at home, it's happening everywhere. Even in universities, it's happening. So that is kind of that myth, maybe a belief or kind of attitude of people towards punishment is bringing issues for the child. Additions, what I can give is alternatives to punishment, to teach them to learn from mistakes, catch them when they do good things rather than catching them when they do bad things. Respond to the cause of the problem and not to the problem. But what I want to emphasize here is not the list of things to do, but the parent needs to develop the skill set, how to handle this. Why we do punishment? Because it is shortcut. If you don't have time, if you want to discipline the child, and if you don't know alternatives, then we do punish. Let's go to sexual abuse. Again, knowledge gap between parent and child. Due to the technology differences, the gap is becoming increased. Lack of knowledge about safety in internet. The knowledge of parents as well as children about how to use internet safely. Lack of knowledge about genders. I think this makes the child, especially like adolescents or like children at bigger age groups, get so much stressed in our cultures, because with the internet and with social media and with relationships now they have through internet, they get exposed to different genders in the world and different sexual orientations. There's a different broad discussion in the world about genders and sexual orientation. So the child actually, they can't figure out, should we discuss this with parents? What do they think? And they don't know anything about it. So these kind of things, so they are very much stressed. And if you take a single person, single child, they themselves are worried, what gender do I have? And is it wrong if I get attracted to this particular person? Things like that. Lack of knowledge about generations and relationships. Mainly what I want to bring here is child has feelings too when it comes to sexual abuse. That is what adults always forget, because they don't have the exposure most of the time about these genders and generations and newest concepts and where are the youngsters going through. So Suggestions, be age sensitive. I think age sensitive approach is very much needed in here. The response to a child of 8 years old will be the same response to a child of 12 or 30. But they begin puberty in 12 and 13, and they start getting feelings by themselves. So they get attracted to opposite sex or any other, whatever, depending on the sexual orientation they have. And spotting signs, before we are talking about prevention today. So the knowledge of parents about signs before something happens. A lot of things are seen beforehand, in advance of the critical issue by the child, if you really notice and if you know how to notice. I'm not saying, being a parent, I also don't know most of the things. I mean, I'm learning day to day. So my suggestion is that parent needs to learn these things. And empowering the child, because you can't go behind the child all the time. Child needs to be independent as well. Knowledgeable and friendly parent at home. So again, I'm focusing on the family unit and thinking about these suggestions. There will be other suggestions as well. Emotional, psychological abuse. A working from home parent with the current context, children's school, playgrounds, came home, as mentioned earlier, parents overlook studies and homework, which is like very stressful for children. Financial issue is becoming the most, frequent or mostly talked about impact coming into our families now. Uncertainty about future is another bigger thing. So with that, children are already stressed. And with those conditions, actually parents have to think about solving the issues. So again, be age sensitive, spotting signs, and these kind of suggestions I would give. And then finally, if you go into neglect, online platforms are vital for education. So children are kind of separated in the house and parent is separated in the house. So they are in the house, but they are, busy with their platforms and technologies and tools in hand. Virtual, the community and the recreation, everything has become virtual. So their relationship, physical contact and things like that has been, kind of vanished. Increased mental issues among children and adults. This is becoming, I think as you said, like if you look into statistics of this, the rates of mental issues have drastically grown for both adults and children during the COVID period. So with all those things, the focus for health and mental health is another thing, because you can't solve everything maybe by yourself when it comes to parents. So parents needs to know like where the helplines are there, to whom to talk, and he's talking good, having some kind of a pool around you to talk to, things like that. So that kind of a skill or arrangement parent needs to have. Finally, I again like to bring back this growth model. What I want to emphasize in these few minutes is that adults need to grow. Adults need to learn and grow. We need to change our attitude. If we are looking at prevention of child abuse in today's world, in a rapidly digitalized world, we need to think of learning.